there was a couple times where 15, 16-year-old me, I'd go inside and she'd be waiting in the car and texting me, when are you done? When are you done? It's 11.
Oh,
When are
that's
you done?
funny. This
course.
podcast is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record that you have coming out. What is it, on Friday?
Yeah, it's on Friday.
Very cool. Awesome. So first off, I did read the band is from El Paso. Is that correct? Texas?
Well, yeah, El
Are
Paso,
you-
Texas.
Are you originally born and raised there?
All of us are. All
Oh,
four of
wow.
us were born and raised here. Yeah.
Very cool. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Sure. I've been playing music in El Paso. I'm 31. I've been playing music in El Paso for the last 15 years. We're a large city, but our music scene is very tightly knit, I think. And so it's a real nice way to build a community, and it's not overwhelming. Everyone kind of knows each other and supports each other, and it's a great scene to be a part of. I've been all over the country and I've played in other scenes, but I'm partial to ours for those reasons, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. How did you get into music?
Well, my dad is a musical person. He's always been good at singing. I come from a very musical family.
Okay.
And just as far as liking to sing and perform, and we're all a bunch of hams. So I guess I get it from him. He put me in music classes when I was young. I think from a young age they could tell I was decent at singing, and so they put me in like a children's choir, and I've fiddled around with various instruments, and so I think it was just a natural byproduct of my family.
That's amazing. Did your family play any instruments as well, or no? Just singing?
My dad dabbled in guitar. It was never like, a massive passion of his, but enough that he could sing some songs on it. So
That's
I
cool.
get that from him too.
Right on. What was the first instrument you learned? Was it guitar?
No, I tried piano. I was, no offense, piano players, but I was bored. That wasn't really rocking enough for me, although I'm sure there's a lot of pianists who rock just fine, but my fingers are too stubby anyway, so it didn't really gravitate towards it. Tried clarinet, tried drums. I liked drums. That was cool, but settled on guitar.
Very cool. And when did you learn guitar?
I think I was like 14. I had been playing drums, and I've always liked to write poetry and sing. And so I was at the place where I didn't want to be Phil Collins. I wanted to be able to play like something besides drums and stand in the front and sing with it. So I figured guitar might be good enough. I'm pretty good rhythmically. And so rhythm guitar was something that kind of, because of my background in drums, it was something that wasn't too difficult for me to learn.
Okay, that's awesome. And did you start writing right away? I mean, you said you had poems together. Were you writing songs pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think, looking back, I mean, I would always make up songs and sing them. I think the first time I actually wrote down words and tried to sing along with them, I was probably like 10 or 11.
Wow.
But it was never anything like I practiced or worked hard at it. And I think by the time I was 14, I knew that it was something I could do. I just needed the right instrument to do it with. And so the minute I learned 3 chords, it was, from there I started doing it more.
Very cool. Did you start a band right away, or just kind of play by yourself? Like, when did you start really performing in front of people?
Honestly, I maybe a year later, I started playing shows once I had, a number of covers learned and a couple of songs of my own. I didn't form a band for many years after. I've spent a number of years as a solo artist. And so the band thing came well into my adulthood. But in high school, sophomore year, I was already playing shows and stuff.
Wow. Where were you playing? Like coffee shops, or were you playing like venues?
Mostly coffee shops, some venues. Every now and then I'd beg my mom to let me play at a bar if they had invited me. And so there was a couple times where 15, 16-year-old me, I'd go inside and she'd be waiting in the car and texting me, when are you done? When are you done? It's 11. When are you done? Mom, you can come inside. It's fine. You are of age. And she's
right.
No, I'm in my car. Let me know when you're done.
Oh, she never came in. Interesting.
No, it's funny. There was this bar back then called the House of Rock and Roll. that I played a couple shows at, and I had to tell them the full name because the nickname of the bar was the Whore Bar.
Oh.
If I had told them I'm playing at the Whore Bar, she would have been like, "No, you're not."
Yeah, no. How did you get
So
that
I had to use the
reputation?
whole, just because House of Rock and Roll, just whore.
Oh, got
So
you. That's
so I always
awesome.
had to use the full name instead of what it was colloquially referred to as.
Got you. Right on. And what covers were you doing? Because I noticed I was watching your videos on your YouTube page. You
Yeah,
have a lot of Bad Religion covers, which is rad, and
yeah,
mainly
yeah.
punk rock covers. Is that what you were
Mhm.
doing as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old?
Yeah, the first show I ever played, I covered "Sorrow" by Bad Religion. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so they've been a part of my musical life for as long as I've been doing it. I think I covered. I'm a millennial. I was there amidst the rise of emo, so I did like I think probably a Dashboard Confessional cover.
Yeah,
I might have done. I might have done Death Cab, something like that.
very cool. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a huge emo kid as well. I'm a little bit older than you, but I
So
grew up in the same era. Am I wearing a cursive shirt because I'm emo like
yeah,
that?
yeah,
But yeah, that's my favorite music, or was at least growing up
yeah.
as well. But yeah, I was watching. You have a bunch of Bad Religion covers. Some of I love your Disconnected cover.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you have like just looking at the bands that you covered, I'm like, oh, I like all these bands growing up. Know Your Name and Millencolin and some of those other bands.
Oh yeah,
I did watch a video of you with Greg Graffin, and it's like a quick little thing, and he's talking about like seeing you on stage or something about you rapping on stage, and then he says something about like your acoustic covers, and you're like so shook. You're like, you've seen my covers, and he's like, yeah, I've seen a couple of them. Tell me about
yeah.
that moment. That must have been crazy.
That video is 11 years old. So
Wow.
yeah. So I went and I saw them at the Warp Tour. Jay Bentley, their bassist, has always just been so good to me and has really extended himself as a friend, even back
Wow.
then. So me and my ex, we went to see them at the Warp Tour, and he invited us on stage to watch from behind the stage. And so they have a song called "Let Them Eat War," which is on their album Empire Strikes First. And in it, there's a rap artist named Sage Francis who on the album does a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when Jay can get away with it, he'll have somebody else do it when they're playing it live. So he asked me right before they did it if I wanted to, and so I said yes. And so that was the first time I ever did it. And so afterwards, I guess we briefly were talking to Graffin, and my ex was filming all of this, and he had mentioned in the video that I had done that part of "Let Them Eat War," and that's where he was talking about a career in rap music, I think,
Yeah.
facetiously, but that's what he was referring to was earlier in the evening when I did that piece of the song.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I guess I don't know if Jay told him or if he actually had at that point, and now I know for sure he has, but I don't know if at that point he really had or not seen my covers. But to hear that from your idol was as a 19-year-old,
Yeah,
it was
huge,
pretty
I'm
cool.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Wow. Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, and I was watching a couple of your videos. You had like a Bad Religion poster in the background. So I can only imagine how huge that would be.
Massive, massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
They're my
cool.
favorite band. So,
That's amazing. Well, okay. So when you're doing those punk covers growing up, when were your like what was kind of next for you? Was it just playing different shows and kind of going from there? I did see you've toured with a bunch of bands, opened up for a bunch of bands. When did that all
yeah.
kind of start?
Um, well, I mean, I started doing punk covers on YouTube in 2008.
Okay.
Mostly again, Bad Religion. But I branched out eventually, and people caught on to them and started liking them. And I had taken a step away from music for a few years. I was going through some mental stuff, and it just wasn't really resonating with me for a time. But once I started getting views on YouTube for these covers, I knew like while I loved doing them, making my own music was by far more important to me, and that motivated me to start pursuing it again. And so I came out with an album like a year later and followed that up with another album, and just started, trying to tour and get my own music out there and get it heard as well. So that's kind of where it came from. And then, like I said, Bad Religion's always been very supportive. They came to El Paso in 2015, and I opened up for them My
Wow.
band, Emily Davis and the Murder Police, we actually went on tour with them last year. We played 16 shows. Not last year, I wish. 2019. Last year sucked. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, right. The last year that people were actually doing stuff.
Yeah. I 2021 and 2020 just kind of feel like one year that's not ending.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
2019 we toured with them. So and yeah,
Wow.
we played with a number of other bands that have come through. So
That's
very
amazing.
fortunate. Yeah.
Very cool. When you put out your first solo record, did you tour on that album as well?
I mean, I did. I was 20, and I haphazardly set up my own several week tour, and it was my first tour ever. And there was a couple shows that were cool. Most of them were not, but you know, it's a learning lesson, or lesson in learning, or whatever the phrase is. Yeah.
Sure. Very cool. How is it touring? Were you just by yourself? I mean, I'm sure you brought somebody with you, but it must be fairly easy to like cruise around in like a car and just kind of drive to show to show.
I mean, back then it was a lot easier. Yeah, I had brought one person with me, and we went on two tours, one in 2010 and one in 2011, and it was just a car and a little bit of merch. And I mean, planning a tour is still intense and stressful, but actually going on tour and it being a lot more simple back then. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it a lot more now because I have my best friends with me, but it was simple in comparison.
You've put out what, 3 records, solo records?
Yeah, I put out 3 solo records, and then we're about to release our second album together as a band.
Very cool. When was it, like, when did you decide to branch out and have have an actual band?
That was around 2015.
Okay.
I released my third album, and so I began running songs in a way that I wanted them to be more complex, and I wanted more input. And I think it's important for artists to evolve, and I think that was just a necessary step in my own creative evolution, was to bring other people on board and to have contributors. And each album I've released, they've grown more and more maybe heavier punk leaning. My first album's very folky, and you know, as they progress, they get a little heavier and a little more intense. And so it's, you know, you can do that by yourself, but it's nice to have people collaborating with you and kind of bringing those songs to life a bit more. And so that's something that I did towards the end of 2015, was form a band.
Was there like a moment was there a song or something, or just a moment that you decided, hey, I should probably find some other people and pursue this as more of a band project, or did it just kind of happen?
I'd always resisted it because I'd had so many people over the years say, you should be in a band. Why don't you have a band? Why are you performing by yourself? And I almost took offense to it. Like, I can do this by myself. I don't need people to, what are you trying to say? Am I not good enough? And so I was always very resistant to it. But I have a good friend of mine and a close musical mentor who suggested it. And he said, you know, if you really want these songs to come to life in a way that you can't bring them to life on your own, maybe you should consider getting a band. And he kind of left it up to me what that band would be. It could be, you know, you just marketing yourself and having people kind of playing along, or you can do whatever, you know, just figure it out. You can make it what you want, but you should just consider exploring it. And my opinion in that regard is I never wanted a backing band. Very self-deferential, and that's one thing, but it's also like, if I'm gonna form a band, I don't want to be like, I'm the main thing and you're over there and you're kind of just in the background. I wanted to form a band and say we all have agency, we all have input, and we are all involved in it. And so if I'm gonna pursue this, I want to pursue it with collaborators. And I mean, I know our name is Emily Davis and the Murder Police. That's the only reason we did that, is because I had a name prior to being in a band. So it was a nice way for people to know, you know, who was involved. But my intention had always been find people who would have their own agency and have it become a collaborative effort, and not just people standing behind you playing what you tell them to. I have no interest in that.
When you started the band, like that first record that you guys put out, was that the first time you had written like a collaborative song? Or like, what was that like? It
was a little daunting.
Can imagine,
because I don't plan for solo is going to be where, you know, when I would write a song, it was just mostly focused on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And when you're planning for other people and their involvement, you kind of have to take that into account. And so it was kind of nice because it makes you think about songwriting in a completely different way. that I hadn't really ever thought about before. Of course, they all contribute to their own ideas. I'll come up with a skeleton and they'll all kind of just throw in their ideas and their commentary, but it definitely did change things up as far as how to structure a song and what to expect out of that song.
Was it different hearing it like as a full band? Like,
Oh
have you ever
yeah, it
played with a
was.
full like full band like that before?
I formed a band in 2012 briefly after my second album, which is another reason why I was so hesitant, because it was fine. We sounded great, but it kind of involved with a bunch of professional musicians that were used to, they weren't used to the struggle, for lack of a better word. They were out playing covers and gigs and, making $500 playing basically cover gigs and other things. And they weren't used to like the kind of dynamic I was in, which is the struggle is real. We're going to work really hard and, at our own expense and our own, whatever. So that kind of, I think the expectations there were a little weird. So going into this, I was very hesitant because it was a sad experience to form something and then to lose it. And so, but I had a band before, but this version of it was a lot heavier and a lot more energetic and punk leaning, which I wanted. So it was cool. It was very cool.
And when you guys, finally put the record out, the first record, did you tour on that album like as a band? And what was that like? How much different was that?
That was great. I mean, when you're performing, it's very hot zone. But the environment's completely different. I've always been loud and brash on stage, so that's always been something I've tried to do with my music. But it's the dynamic is still different when you're there by yourself with an acoustic guitar versus when people are roaring behind you on electric and bass and drums. It's definitely a different feeling, and it was exciting. It was fun being able to share that passion and that enthusiasm with people who I consider my second family. So
I was wondering, what would you say like the big milestone or the takeaway from that first record together was?
I know this is going to sound cheesy, but it's just like collaborating on something and releasing it and hearing it in a way that you've never done anything before. It's very different building on something by yourself and then putting your hopes and dreams and effort and energies into something with other people and then seeing it come to fruition and sharing that accomplishment. For me, also, I defer to this a lot, but Jay Bentley heard the album from Bad Religion and he said he loved it. I mean, enough that he asked us to tour with them. So to have your idols hear the songs you write and to strongly react to them favorably, and then to just be able to, hearing people even, respond to us saying this song or that song really resonated with me. Those are all rewarding aspects. So
when you got that call, tell me about getting that call saying, hey, you guys are going to tour with Bad Religion.
Sure. Actually, me and George, our guitarist, we went to see Bad Religion in Camp Anarchy in Ohio in June of 2019. And Jay had us backstage and was hanging out with us. And then, of course, they went and performed. And towards the end of the evening, me and George are hanging around and we see him and he's on his way to his trailer. So it was a very quick interaction. And he just comes up to us and he says, what are you guys doing this fall? And we were like, hopefully touring. We're not sure. We have a little tour planned. And he's like, okay, because we're doing like a South tour. We thought we'd ask you on, are you going to be busy? Are you? And I didn't even ask George or call anybody else. I was like, yes, let me know. We'll figure it out.
Right.
And so we're both, just standing there kind of like, yeah, we'll do it. Great. He's like, all right, I'm going to go. And then he just goes and we don't see him again. And of course, me and George are just looking at each other like, ah! And then we call our other two bandmates who I think were at a barbecue or something. And we're like, hey, I call Hassan. I'm like, guess what happened? And he's like, what? I'm like, what is the coolest thing that you think could happen from us going to see Bad Religion Ohio? And he's like, did they ask you if we could tour with them? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh! The four of us are just like, ah! So it's one of my favorite memories ever. I mean, almost as much as actually touring with them is just that memory of calling them and us all freaking out just for an extended amount of time.
Yeah, that's so special.
Yeah.
When he walked away, was it like, how do I get in contact with them? Like, or were they very like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have his info, so it was pretty easy.
That's good.
Yeah.
I can imagine being like, now how do we like make sure that this is all gonna happen? Like, is it really gonna happen?
Well, it was hard because we couldn't tell anybody about it for like 2 months,
Oh, because they didn't announce the tour yet.
So we had to just go home and be like, Everything's normal.
Oh man.
It's really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, so you said that tour was in 2019. When did it wrap up? And like, where were you guys at when, like, pre-coronavirus? Like,
Well, it wrapped up. We were on the road like September, October. We
okay.
came home. We were told like you should just like make music immediately. You know, whatever you have, record it, release it. That's the new paradigm as far as music making is concerned, which is hard for me because I love albums. But we had about 5 songs ready, and so we went home. We did a Kickstarter for. No, we didn't. We did that this year. Sorry. We went home. We had some money saved up already, so we went home. We recorded the 5 songs we had. And the idea was we're just going to release these as an EP, and then we'll go on the road for as much of 2020 as we can. But that didn't happen, obviously. So the new idea became, well, we want to be able to try and stay relevant throughout the year. So maybe we just release a song every 4 or 5 weeks. So that's what we ended up doing from like April until October. We just put out one of the songs and tried to promote it as best as we could. During that time, we wrote another 7 songs. Did a Kickstarter for them and then recorded them in January, and now we're just kind of pushing them all together. I get my way, we could call it an album. So we do both things. We try to record and get them out as soon as possible, but I still get to make the album because I'm old school like that. So
sure, I love that. Was it difficult? I mean, I'm sure that must have been heartbreaking knowing that like you just got off this tour with Bad Religion. I'm sure there's a lot of eyes on you at that point. Like,
it was. It's like the worst time it could have happened, but you can't like let it eat at you. You gotta, I mean, my mindset is we're a good enough band that happened for us once. And we're an even better band now. I think, I look at the difference between our first and second albums. I look how much we've gone through, how much we've had to work, how hard it's been, and how much we've improved in that time. And so if we were good enough to tour with Bad Religion in 2019, we're good enough for other opportunities in 2021. I have no doubt of that. And so it was really hard. We were supposed to go on tour with Sparta.
Wow, that's
huge. It got canceled, but my hope is that, and I've been told as much, that there are future opportunities there.
Amazing. Were you at the Drive-In Fan prior to Sparta? Okay.
A little bit. I think I gravitate more towards Sparta, but I like At the Drive-In also.
That's cool.
They're from El Paso, so.
Oh yeah, they are, huh? They're using their record called El Paso.
Hell Paso. They had a song called Hell Paso.
Maybe. I'm confused.
Jim Ward still lives here.
Does he really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, so the record's coming out on Friday. Like, tell me about the songs. Like, was it difficult to write over the course of COVID?
I don't think so. It's difficult because I need a lot of stimulation, and when you don't have that, it's easy to get depressed. But I'm fortunate that my guitarist was around a lot, and we both set little goals, and some of those goals were being productive musically speaking. And so songs get more fleshed out when we were in quarantine together. And so we were able to flesh out the songs enough that once we were able to meet as a full band and kind of work through them, it wasn't as hard. We were able to figure them out pretty quickly as a foursome. And so, it's called Never Moment Alone. It's out on Friday, everywhere. We have 2 songs that we've already released. There's a music video for one of them. It's called Why Weren't They Stunned? It's on YouTube. You can stream it everywhere. So we're excited about it.
I did watch the video. That's a cool video that you guys put together.
Thanks. Yeah, that's actually we recorded it. We filmed it at the place we recorded the album, which is a studio in El Paso called Brainville. So
really,
yeah.
What was that like? Was it difficult to shoot, or when did you film the video?
We filmed it in April, at the very, very end of April. So at that point, everyone had been vaccinated, and it wasn't hard at all.
That's good. That's really good. Awesome. Well, what are you most excited about for the record coming out on Friday?
What happens next? I'm excited that I'm excited to start working on the next one. So it's nice to get it out and be able to clear the slate. But I'm also excited to see what it does and what opportunities it might hopefully lead to, because I think it's a great album. So
yeah. And with stuff opening up, are you guys doing like an album release show or anything like that?
We are, locally. So then we have a couple shows planned for Albuquerque and Santa Fe in July. So
have you played yet since this all has? Oh, really? So is this gonna be your first show?
We haven't played a show since January of 2020.
Wow.
We opened up for Juliana Hatfield in Dallas and Austin, and that's the last show we played. So,
Wow. So this, you guys, I'm sure, are itching to play.
oh my
Especially,
God.
and it's going to be huge. I'm sure it'll be an emotional night, especially for a record release
Oh,
and the
yeah.
first show you've played.
Yeah, for sure. And
Wow.
have a bunch of friends show up and support us, which they're always amazing. So,
Nervous at all?
yeah, I think I'm nervous just because it's been so long that it's important for me that we do a good job, but I know we will. So, it's a nervous excitement, I think, more than anything.
I think people are going to freak out, especially people that haven't been to a show in a year and a half.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're playing with some good local bands, so that helps. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that's amazing. Well, good luck, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I do have one more question before I let you go. If you have
Okay.
any advice for aspiring artists.
Don't stop, because it is so easy to get downtrodden and to want to give up. Especially like if the years go by and I'm 31, and it's easy to go, well, it's never going to happen, or well, I'm going to have a fallback. Don't ever stop. There's no reason to. The longer you do it, the better you get, the more chances you have. So music has saved my life mentally. It is the reason I exist and continue to exist. And so for that reason alone, I continue doing it. So I encourage anybody to never give it up. Just keep doing it.